The Dogman movie, produced by DreamWorks, is set to make a big splash in early 2025. And if you've watched our videos on this half-man, half-dog policeman, you already know that the character comes from a series of children's books that have been a massive success worldwide.
Green? Wait, aren't dogs colorblind?
Our beloved Dogman has 12 fun books full of his wild and hilarious adventures. But do you know which one is the best of the entire saga?
This super cop made friends, solved crimes, and even plays piano for the old folks.
One of the most memorable books is, without a doubt, the very first one, released in 2016. It tells the story of how the fearless Officer Knight and his dog Greg were caught in an explosion and had to fuse their bodies together to survive, creating the greatest police officer of all, Dogman. This is where the adventures of the canine hero begin, and it's also where several characters are introduced, like the Chief and Petey, along with, of course, the protagonist of the entire series. This book is tons of fun, and is responsible for all the others that followed because there wouldn't have been a continuation if the first one hadn't caught the audience's attention. But the series has evolved quite a bit over time, so the first book has a style that's quite different from the others in both the drawings and the way the story unfolds. That's why it ranks lower than its sequels. Want to know more about the other books? I hope so, because this is the start of our ranking of all the Dogman books. Our canine cop is now eagerly biting at the chance to cause a stir in the movie world. There are 12 books in total, so join the wave, because another Cinewave is starting. For Whom the Ball Rolls is the 7th book in the series, released in 2019. Its name is a reference to the 1940 book For Whom the Bell Tolls by Ernest Hemingway. You'll notice that most Dogman books follow this trend of having titles that reference famous classic literature. In this story, Dogman's obsession with balls causes him to let a thief escape. Because of this, his friends start helping him to become less distracted. The problem is that as a result, he develops a fear of balls, and a mad scientist takes advantage of this by creating ball-shaped robots to defeat Dogman. But of course, Dogman manages to sort it all out, and everything ends well. In Unleashed, Dogman and the other officers prepare a surprise birthday party for the Chief. Everyone decides on a gift, and our hero chooses a pet fish for the Chief. This is how the Chief gets the little fish Flippy, who ends up ingesting a special compound and becomes an evil villain with incredible psychic powers in this very book. This story is simply epic, because when compared to the first book, everything that happens is grand and wild, showing readers that Dogman is always full of surprises with each new story. Unleashed is the second Dogman book, but there's already a significant leap in quality compared to the first one. From this point on, we start to understand better the kinds of plots we'll follow in the rest of the Canine Cop saga. By the way, Flippy appears as a small Easter egg in the Dogman movie trailer, as we can see him in a fish tank in the Chief's office. Could this hint that he might become a supervillain with telekinetic powers at some point in the film, or perhaps in a sequel? Fetch 22 is the 8th book and shows Petey getting out of prison and deciding to give up his life of crime. The conflict this time is that Petey's villainous father appears, causing trouble alongside another villain who's literally a fairy. This forces Petey and Dogman to join forces to defeat them. This is the story where Petey definitively abandons his villainous ways, which is crucial for the rest of the series, as he becomes one of the main good guys from this point onward. It's likely that Petey will also redeem himself in the movie universe, assuming the Dogman film is successful enough to earn a sequel. So it's very possible that this plot involving his father might get adapted for the big screen at some point. Dogman and Cat Kid from 2017 is the 4th book in the series and one of Dogman's most memorable stories. The protagonist teams up with Lil Petey, Petey's good-hearted son, to find a famous movie actress who has gone missing in the city. To solve this mystery, Dogman becomes the Bark Knight, while Lil Petey turns into Cat Kid. Additionally, within the story's universe, a Dogman movie is being made during this book, which is quite amusing, especially since we're getting an actual movie about him in real life. Was Dave Pilkey, the author of Dogman, already hoping to see his character on the big screen back then? Or is this just a funny coincidence? Would you like to see this storyline in the movies? If so, comment below with #Petey. In addition to being the 9th story in the saga, Grime and Punishment is a clear reference to the 1866 novel Crime and Punishment by Russian author Fyodor Dostoevsky, which just goes to show that Dogman can be way more cultured than most people think. In this book, our dog-faced hero eats the mayor's precious rose garden and as a result, loses his police badge. That's right, Dogman gets fired. The title of the book really makes sense when you think about it. Unable to continue working as a police officer to fight crime, Dogman disguises himself as Catman to sneak back into the police force and once again battle Petey's father. This book is another creative and fun one, as it changes up the story dynamics to show us some crazy and hilarious scenes. Lord of the Fleas is another recognizable title, as it references the 1954 novel Lord of the Flies by William Golding. This is the 5th volume in the saga, where Dogman must defeat a group of animal supervillains led by Piggy, a selfish and wicked pig who wears glasses. He's another villain who has a good chance of appearing in a future Dogman movie. To do this, Dogman not only needs help from Lil Petey and the robot ADHD, but also has to team up with Petey himself to take down Piggy and his crew. This happened before the book where Petey redeems himself, and it helped build the idea that the world's most evil cat could be redeemed, which of course turned out to be true. In Brawl of the Wild, which was published in 2018, the series once again breaks the mold by presenting a major challenge for Dogman. He's accused of a crime he didn't commit. As a result, the canine cop is sent to dog jail. His friends begin searching for a way to prove his innocence while he struggles to adjust to his new life as a prisoner, which is tough since he's in a dog prison but isn't 100% dog or 100% human. This story stands out for its different tone and its mystery elements, as no one knows how to convince people that Dogman is just an innocent victim who was framed. Thankfully, he manages to get out of this predicament in the end, or else the rest of the books would have all been set in prison. This is the 6th book in the series, and its title is a reference to the 1903 novel The Call of the Wild by Jack London. In the 11th volume, Piggy returns with an evil plan that puts all of Dogman's friends in danger. This time, the adventure involves a giant flying submarine that Piggy and his crime partners have in their possession. This book is another one that's incredibly epic, fun, and hilarious, which is why it ranks 4th. Piggy's return is also fantastic since he's a memorable villain. In fact, he might be the best villain in the entire series, aside from Petey, who has switched to the good side. The author of the series also used this story to make some allusions to real-world events and critiques, like a reference to the COVID-19 pandemic and a jab at media sensationalism. It's pretty impressive to see something like that in a series as comedic as Dogman. I definitely wasn't expecting to see those themes in the story. Now we're going to talk about the top 3 Dogman books, so click that subscribe button to get our videos and keep having fun! Mothering Heights is definitely one of the best Dogman stories because it goes beyond just being a funny adventure and dives into the backstory of one of the most important characters in the entire franchise, Petey. This is the 10th volume in the series and was published in 2021. In this story, the most fearless canine cop of all suffers an accident and has to wear a neck cone, just like an injured dog. I mean, he is kind of an injured dog. Alright, let's not get sidetracked. Because of the cone, Dogman starts getting bullied by his coworkers and has to deal with this issue. Meanwhile, Petey, who has already gone through his redemption arc by this point in the story, goes on the biggest reporter in the world, Sarah's show, for an interview, and he starts to recall his traumatic past. That's when we learn more about Petey's origin. As if that wasn't enough, Petey's father escapes from cat jail, and both Petey and Dogman have to figure out how to deal with the old man once again. A Tale of Two Kitties is one of the earlier Dogman books. It's the 3rd volume, released in 2017, just a year after the first book. Even so, it's easily one of the best in the entire series. That's because in this story, Petey creates Lil Petey, a younger, artificially made version of himself. Lil Petey was initially created just to serve him, but eventually, Petey starts considering him his son. What Petey didn't expect was for Lil Petey to choose to be good and become friends with Dogman. Petey even created the robot ADHD to try and corrupt his son, but Lil Petey just became friends with ADHD too, bringing the robot over to the good side. This 3rd book, as you can see, marks the debut of Lil Petey and ADHD. They're both crucial to the saga and will definitely appear in a Dogman movie sequel. That's why this story absolutely had to be in the top 3. The Scarlet Shedder was released in 2024 and is the most recent book in the series. And honestly, in my opinion, it's already the best one. In the story, Dogman gets dunked in tomato juice and turns completely red, so he takes on a new superhero identity, the Scarlet Shedder. With his new name, he goes on a mission to take down an old foe, Dr. Scum, who is now leading an army of AI-controlled robots that are clones of Dogman and his friends. It's an incredibly epic adventure, and once again, the author slips in some clever social commentary as the villain's robots that mimic the heroes serve as a metaphor for the misuse of artificial intelligence. Come on, admit it, Dogman's adventures are way cooler than you thought, right? Let's hope the movie manages to capture these awesome traits from the books. And for those of you who've read the books, why not share your ranking from worst to best in the comments section? We've got 2 great videos lined up on your screen, so just click on one of them to keep the fun going. Thanks, and see you next time!